Good morning, Jessica with Northbridge Homes here. And in a previous video, I talked a little bit about the planning timeline that it takes to get through planning a custom home. In today's video, I'm going to give you kind of an inside scoop of how that design process evolves from concept all the way to permit ready plans. So there's a few stages here, and this is why we suggest taking, a good chunk of time, 3 to 4 months, and allowing yourself that time for the design, because we're going to go from concept all the way to permit, which requires a lot of different elements to come together, working together for your plans. When we're first starting, we're looking at adjacencies, what rooms are next to what's the flow of the house, how big do the spaces need to be. And in that, typically we're starting from taking a floor plan that's existing and making the modifications. Maybe we're making a room bigger, a room smaller, we're removing a room altogether, we're combining rooms, any number of elements like that. Or we could be creating something completely from scratch, in which case typically we're working with a pencil drawn design. And at that stage, when we're talking about a certain room size, we're just drawing out a single line that represents that room. That line, pencil line on graph paper, for example, is not going to account for the width of the walls in between rooms. And so that's why we call this the one line stage, because every wall is represented by a single line. There's no dimension to the walls, and there's really no mechanical calculations attached to the drawing at this stage. It's just conceptual in terms of the kitchen is going to be this big, the living room is going to be this big, and they're going to be next to each other. On the other side of the living room is going to be the master, for example. So that's the one line stage. Once we've refined your ideas and what you want in the home at that stage, that is taken then to the architect, who's going to help us do the second stage, which is basically the floor plan stage. So at the one line stage, we're going to come up with the basic concept of the home. In the floor plan stage, that's going to get transferred into a CAD file, which the architect's going to be able to work with to produce the final plans for your home down the road. That CAD file is going to be, initially at this floor plan stage, 4 or 5 pages. It's not going to be a complete set of plans, because we're still going to make changes. Typically in that floor plan stage, that second stage of design, we're going back a couple of different times, usually 2 times, to really refine that down before we go through full engineering. Once that floor plan stage is complete, we're going to move on to engineering. And at this stage, we're going to make sure that everything that's wind loads, shear panel requirements, snow loads on the roof, as well as the foundation requirements are all engineered properly, not only to support a long-term home, but to meet the code requirements in your area. Typically, we're going to go above and beyond those. With that, there's also the mechanical chases to consider, the way that plumbing and electricity and HVAC are going to flow through the home. And then we're going to have a whole mechanical design that will go along with your floor plans that will be needed to submit for your permit. With that final stage and the engineering complete, we'll have plans that are ready for permit, and then we'll also accompany that with a site plan, which is where we'll actually go out to the lot and stake out where your house is going to set, so that you know that you've made all the decisions that you want to make and it's going to turn out exactly how you want it to before we get in the ground.